for CEOs and millionaires. I've never seen my vision be more crystal clear. Look in the mirror, see the change in who I used to be. I kept going, knew success would come eventually. But ask about me back then, they said I wouldn't make it. Nowadays they doubt less and tend to ask for favors. Poetic music, that's realness, don't let them tell you different. And if you ever lost in doubt, then follow your intuition. These words of wisdom is for those who's trying to find their purpose. Don't be living just to die, cause only death is certain. I'm working hard so I can toast to my accomplishments. Cause see, I lost it all and I ain't been the same since. I'm more focused, more ambitious, more everything. Grew up with nothing, now I appreciate the finer things. I know it's real when at the shows they ask for autographs. And now they know the name, they ain't gotta ask.
All right, so back at it. My next guest is Eddie Yenkinson. Did I say that right?
Yes,
Okay, perfect. And Eddie's another member of our Veterans Post in Denver, Colorado. So appreciate you and taking the time to do this, and look forward to getting to know a little bit more about you.
Sure.
So are you from Denver originally, or?
I'm originally from Baltimore, Maryland.
Oh, okay. What part of Baltimore? I mean, I've driven through there a couple times, and I've stopped in the downtown area that's kind of really cleaned up lately, and had some really good food there, and some of the restaurants and stuff like that. What part of Baltimore is?
I'm in the northwest part of Baltimore, Randallstown.
Okay, got it. And was that like kind of a Jewish community hub in the city?
Yeah, the Jews lived on the northwest side of Baltimore. Pikesville, Randallstown.
Got it. And how'd you end up in Colorado?
I was born there. Colorado, I'm sorry. Yeah. I was drafted, and my last duty station was out here in Colorado.
Oh, okay.
At Fort Carson.
Yeah, same
and
as
while
me.
I was out here, I met a lady who was to become my wife, and I just really like living out here. Yeah. I think this is God's playground out here in Colorado.
Yeah, no, it's wonderful. That's why I honestly haven't.
Skiing, biking, hiking, it's just the best anywhere in the world.
Absolutely. The best of both worlds. Seriously. And let's talk a little bit about like growing up in Baltimore. What year were you born?
1945.
Okay. Were you considered a boomer, or was that 1 year too early?
A little bit early.
Okay. And so were your parents from the States originally? Were they born and raised in the States, or?
My mother and father both were, yes.
Okay. And what did they do for work?
My mother was a teacher, and my father was an auto mechanic.
Okay.
He had a little neighborhood gas station, worked it his whole life, 45 years.
Oh, that's awesome. And then do you have siblings?
I have a brother and two sisters.
Okay.
My brother lives outside of Philadelphia. He's a veterinarian. I have a sister in Bowie, Maryland, who is retired. She's my older sister. And my younger sister was a teacher as well, and she retired and moved out to North Las Vegas, where she is now.
Okay. And growing up, did you guys belong to a congregation? Did you go to camps, that kind of stuff?
We belonged to Temple Oheb Shalom, where I was bar mitzvah.
Okay. And was it kind of a secular kind of congregation, or?
It's Reformed.
Okay. Got it. Yeah, it just kind of gives you a little perspective on kind of the lifestyle and how folks grew up. You know, obviously,
sure,
have various degrees of faith, and just kind of paints that picture a little bit easier. And so when growing up, what ultimately like intrigued you about the military?
To be honest, I didn't really know a whole lot about it. I'm the first family member actually to have served.
Okay.
So I didn't have any family history or what have you.
And so with that, were you drafted, or did you volunteer?
I was drafted. I was an accounting major at the University of Baltimore when I got a draft notice.
Oof.
So they allowed me to finish the school semester, and then I went in.
Got it. And then as you're getting, I mean, obviously during that time period, you know, things are happening, you're hearing commotion from, across the pond, so to speak. When you get that draft letter, what's going through your mind, like when you first read it?
It was crazy times with the buildup of Vietnam and President Johnson and so forth. I didn't mind going in. It was a really bad time in my life. I'd got my head organized where I saw a direction and a path to follow. And I actually submitted a request to the military to defer it until I graduated so I'd have a skill to bring to the service. Mm-hmm. So I had no objection or problem to serve. I really wanted to, but I just thought it would be best if they allow me another year and a half or so deferment that I could go in following graduation.
And during that time, was that pretty common, that people that were in school, that they felt compelled to serve, they just wanted to get done what they started?
I think most people, and I did too, had a 2S deferment from military service while we're full-time college. And I do not know why mine didn't work.
And
then, so I appealed it to the different appellate boards to just try to get a delay in induction, which, again, I didn't mind doing. But I don't know. It's a huge interruption in your educational process if you got to set aside a couple of years.
Yeah, absolutely. And how'd your family take that?
Well, not well. It's not the preferred place that I'm told Jewish boys do. But
and looking back on it after you've kind of looking on that situation, do you feel like it turned out for the best in that sense? Like
it absolutely did.
Yeah. And then so what unit did you serve in the military?
I was in the Army.
Okay. And what'd you do?
The 5th Mechanized Division.
Okay. And so when you were in school, that was early 60s or mid 60s, like 64, 65?
1966.
Okay. Crazy year. And then obviously seeing everything that's going on in Vietnam escalating, and then obviously in the States with the civil rights movement in full swing at that time. I mean...
Yeah, I was in the height of that. Yes.
So
the big build-up to Vietnam, and President Johnson, just looking back on what we know now about political integrity, there's a lot of things of question that were going on at the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you feel that, like, on one hand, you're going across the planet to push our values and ideology as a country, but at the same time, you're seeing your country going through some growing pains of its own? Did you feel conflicted in a sense of having to go there, even though you felt like maybe your value added would be better served at home?
It's an interesting question. I'm not sure I asked myself those questions at the time. I was 19, not a whole lot of direction in my life. And
yeah, no, I totally get it.
My value, I was looking towards my future. But I can tell you clearly now, looking back over all these years and having a lifetime of experience, I am a strong advocate for national service. Not necessarily military, but it certainly could be included. I think it's something that would greatly, greatly benefit the United States if we had that.
Yeah, no, I'm actually in very much agreement with you on that. What other things would you consider as like a national service or a gap year that people would be able to do along with military if they so chose?
You could have a whole wide range of things. I also volunteer in the state park system today. I think young people could serve almost anywhere. They could be a teacher's aide. They could be something in the Forest Service. They could be something in the park system. There's probably 100 different categories young people could choose from, and to incentivize people to fulfill all the different slots, some that may be less than desirable, you put an economic factor onto it. Yeah. But I just think that national service is something that would make people feel American and not just what can American do for me.
Yeah.
I feel very strongly about that. I would exclude nobody. Everybody would serve.
Yeah. And did
a year after high school time is ideal. you're not married, you don't have kids yet. For the
Yeah.
most part, don't have a mortgage, maybe a car payment, but that's usually about it.
Mm-hmm. And did that feeling of service, was that ingrained in you through your childhood, or did that come later in life, like after the
Much
military?
later.
Yeah,
Much later. I didn't really understand it growing up.
got it. Yeah, no, I know from my perspective, from having served, like I was active duty for 12 years. I would be a liar if I told you that I was doing it for the betterment of society and trying to, make sure that America keeps its hegemony in the world, that kind of thing. I did it for the college money and a couple other factors, but at the same time, I think as you grow as a person, you start to have a more profound sense of identity as you move along. And with that, and you've put some sweat equity into the country, you just have a different feeling for the country in itself. And I don't know.
You feel part of the team.
Yeah.
People that graduate from a university will follow their football team for life. It's just part of what becomes ingrained in you.
Yeah, and then if you added some of the overseas components to that national service, I think people would recognize how lucky we are to be born American. And,
100%.
and it's literally a lottery ticket on life, and people still don't take advantage of it. So with that, what did you do in the Army?
I have no idea why, but I was given a secret clearance. Following basic, which is pretty much what everybody does in the infantry, maybe because they knew how to read and write or had some college, they sent me out to a mortar school. And again, because they knew how to read and write and count to three, they sent me to a nuclear missile school.
Oh, wow.
And for some reason, they gave us a secret clearance on that. Even though I was somewhat concerned if we got captured and tortured, I would have no secrets to reveal because they didn't know any.
Right.
But all we learned was the operational factors of the missile system.
Got it.
And following that weapon system was not deployed in Asia. So just stroke of luck, they went down the line 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and whatever number I was came to Colorado. The other two bases were in the States. So I spent the last part of my service out here at Fort Carson, Colorado Springs.
Got it. And so after you went to basic, you went through all these schoolings. You headed first to Vietnam. Is that where you ended up?
I never left the country.
Oh, okay. Got it.
My military career is not something that's really exceptional or exciting or exotic. I did my basic at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and then I did my AIT mortar school out in Fort Ord, California, and then they sent us to that missile school down in Fort Polk, Louisiana.
Got it. And how many years in total were you?
I was in for 2.
2?
Yes.
And then after you completed your service, you went back to school?
I went back to the University of Baltimore. I took an early discharge by about a month to mate with a school semester. And I was engaged at the time to who's now my wife, Hester. And then we moved back out here to Colorado within a year.
Got it.
And I've been here ever since.
What did you graduate in as far as a degree?
I was an accounting major when I was drafted, but I finished with a business degree.
Okay.
Business administration.
What made you want to switch or change it up?
It was practical.
Yeah. Kind of pigeonhole yourself. Yeah.
Package delivery business, and just made sense. It was all the credits transferred, and I finished up at the University of Denver on the GI Bill.
Oh, nice. I just finished myself at the DU for their MBA program. So,
good for you.
Oh, thanks. So with that, you're moving along in life and you're married now, you back in Colorado, like when you transitioned from the military to back to university? Did you have any like issues with folks at college? Because I know that obviously the university life at that time was adamantly against Vietnam and people in the military. Did you ever face any kind of
I think that's
backlash?
more true in the large universities. I don't think so much in the private or smaller universities.
Got it.
For one, I didn't live on campus, so I wasn't involved, and I missed that stage of life. University of Baltimore didn't have a on-campus student body.
Got it. And so after
No, I didn't notice any of that.
well, that's good.
That was
Because you hear a lot of stories on that time frame and just people that are pushing policy in a sense, or administering the policies that people have pushed down, get scapegoated into the strategic plans of the U.S. and their foreign policy, and you're like, I'm just a guy.
well, you can get caught up in the backwash of that, but I didn't.
No, that's good.
I didn't live on campus at DU. I was working full time and going to school full time, and there just wasn't time for any of that.
Yeah. And so after DU, what did you end up pivoting to after school?
Well, I graduated from DU, and that was the end of my college education.
Mm-hmm.
I was working for my father-in-law in a package delivery business, and I worked for him for about 5 years, and I bought his interests out. And I worked there until just recently, actually.
Okay. And was it packaging as far as like
We
delivery?
We specialized in the optical and delivery industries. So we delivered between the laboratories and the doctors, the eye doctors and the dentists.
Oh, got it.
So we were kind of like behind the scenes, didn't deal with the public at all. Most all of our work was contract.
Gotcha.
And we covered the majority of the state of Colorado and New Mexico.
Mm. So you might have some insight on the supply chain mishandlings of this vaccine and some thoughts on that, I'm sure.
I always thought it'd be really an interesting project to run the post office. The post office goes everywhere, every day, and yet look what's happened. You got FedEx and UPS and other couriers out there that go the same places every day, but the post office was going there every day before. Why weren't they able to capture that business? So you talk about supply chain today. To me, it's simple. It's straightforward. It's just logistical. If you could just get government out of it and let people that know how to do it run it, it would run very smoothly. But we've got 50 different states with 50 different sets of regulations, and the federal government's trying to distribute this product, and and it's a crazy scenario.
Too many chefs in the kitchen.
As a member of the VA, I see how they run. People complain about it. I think it's a beautiful system.
And what makes you say that? Just the care that you received, or just knowing people there? Or?
Well, it's both. I volunteer there, so I guess I see a lot. It just works. They don't have to answer to anybody all the time, and they can make their own decisions on how to buy medicines to distribute. They don't have to go through all the political entanglements, and boy, it works.
Do you think it's because insurance is not involved in the same capacity with the VA, and so it kind of streamlines the process?
It's the insurance and all the special interests.
Right. I mean, since you volunteer at the VA, were you tracking the things that were happening with the new hospital out in Aurora at the time?
Well, for sure. Well, I drive for them. I drive their van to pick patients up to bring them into the hospital for their appointments or take them home. I was watching it all. I drive by it all the time. It was interesting.
Yeah, it was definitely, that like you were talking about the special interest, like government contracting obviously is big business, and the construction is always kind of a laissez-faire, ethical kind of business in certain aspects. And, the government had, bid this contract and somebody won it and then asked for, $500 million afterwards that they couldn't complete it otherwise with more cash. And
there's so much more than that, Ben, that went into it. I wasn't there at the engineering level or the level where they're putting all the parts and pieces together.
Mm-hmm.
But I understand they awarded contracts before they even had a completed project in mind. They just were going to build this thing, and they started here, and they have architects doing all kind of fancy stuff. And the end product is world class. It's a fabulous facility, but it was just built so haphazardly, and I can't imagine but the special interests inside of all that.
Yeah.
What a waste of money.
Yeah, it's just frustrating as a citizen.
I don't think it'll ever happen again.
Yeah.
I think the Army Corps of Engineers will take over any large project and not give it out to the VA or anybody else to build whatever they want to build.
Yeah, absolutely. Then we see the same stuff with the Denver airport.
Yes.
So yeah. So when you're working in that packaging business, obviously you're handling many things. You have a responsibility as far as ensuring that your clients get what they need at the right times, and keeping those critical things that they need to get on time and prepared correctly as far as like temperatures and things like that. Do you think your military experience kind of helped you with managing an endeavor like that a little bit easier?
And I'd like to say yes to your question, but the answer is no. I don't think I was able to transition anything I learned in the military, aside from discipline, to anything else.
And what intrigued?
We learned how to fire a lot of different types of weapons and drive different kinds of vehicles. And I don't know what that has to do with client relations or legal matters or accounting matters or tax or billing or PR work or HR work. And
yeah. So what
wasn't at a very high level in the military. So
what intrigued you to ultimately take over the business?
I just saw it as a good future, and it did work out really well. I didn't work nights or weekends, and people say when you're in your own business you can do what you want, which is probably exactly opposite of what it takes to survive and succeed.
Yeah, no kidding. And so
I always liked to be around small business. I worked as a teenager in a small company, and it's nice you do all aspects of things.
No, I feel the same. With that, do you still run the business, or are you retired now?
It's sold now.
Okay. And with that, what are you doing with your time nowadays?
Well, thank goodness we have 7 healthy grandkids.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I spend as much time as they allow with school and all their activities. Sadly, my wife isn't well, and it takes some time to take care of the needs at home.
Mm-hmm.
She has a pretty severe case of pulmonary hypertension and on oxygen, all that.
Yeah.
I was spending some time volunteering at the VA hospital, but the volunteer services are right now on abeyance with this COVID thing, and I'm hoping that will come back soon. I enjoyed spending time with veterans and chatting them up, and what'd you do and how are you and all that stuff.
Yeah, no,
I spent time in the state park system as a volunteer naturalist.
Okay, what does that entail?
It was to take the kids around from the different schools, and just teach them a little bit about the webs of life in nature, what's going on in the outside world. Hopefully, to respect it, the park system, to preserve it and protect it and enjoy it.
Is there anywhere in particular you go, like Rocky Mountain National Park, or?
I usually spend a lot of time down in Castlewood Canyon State Park.
Okay, got it.
I can go into any of the state parks, but that's the one that I'm most closely aligned to.
Gotcha. And are you kind of passing that love of nature on to your grandkids as well?
Oh, yeah, you bet. Every chance I get. There's so much to learn, to appreciate, and you can walk by something and not know what it is, and so you just walk by it. And but if you know what it is and where it plugs into nature and what its food source is and what seasons it thrives and what it's doing, it's to me it's fascinating. I feel I learn as much from the kids as they maybe learn a little bit from me too.
Yeah, because you're the guy that knows how to type and you can research the stuff, right?
When I tell them I know a little bit about a lot of things and not much about anything, so there's just so much more to learn out in nature.
Yeah, no, I kind of rekindled my love of nature just recently again, where I went to South Africa with the University of Denver. Actually, they had a kind of a conference, like immersion, what they call them, where you just bring all the people that were online together for like a week, and you obviously share some moments and have some fun times. But I ended up staying longer and going on a safari in Kruger Park and just being involved in nature and kind of being a bystander on the natural evolution in that process there was really eye-opening again, and kind of gave me a love back for exactly what you're talking about, that kind of childlike enthusiasm on like figuring things out and the rawness of nature. I think we've kind of gotten away from, because our lives are generally so easy that we don't realize.
They're sterilized and commercialized, and to get out in the parks where it's just you and the rocks and the trees and whatever wildlife is around, and get out and see the big country. And some people say it makes you feel small and insignificant, and I think it just makes you feel as part of what's God's creation, our responsibility to care for it.
Yeah.
I did a little stint with the Sierra Club, taking inner city kids outside, and it's amazing, things you think you take for granted, like you say. Some of these kids have never been out of the city.
Like in Denver? Idea. Like in Denver?
Yeah, in Denver. It's
what's the organization called? Sierra?
Yeah, Sierra Club.
Okay. I've never heard of it, to be honest.
Oh, they're national, they're huge, and usually the teachers put the school teachers put the programs together. And
oh, very interesting. And what schools do you like? What age range do they usually take?
Usually they're early teenagers, 13, 14, 15, maybe older.
Okay.
It's whatever group they give you, that's the group you get.
Got it. And then as far as like being out in nature and going to parks, are there any parks in particular that you just absolutely love that are outside of Colorado? And are there some that you still want to get to?
I spend a fair amount of time out in Utah in the national parks, and oftentimes off the beaten path. And it's great to spend a few days or a week out there and with the red rocks. And
it's one thing I still need to get to is Moab. I still haven't done that yet.
I try to stay away from the cities because it's just all the tourists and the crowds, and I want to get out in the backcountry. And the years are starting to pay their toll, and I'm not sure what I'm going to be doing. But
got it. Have you been to like in Wyoming anywhere? Do you do anything up there before?
I did a week in the Beartooth Mountains last year with an Ollie group. Okay. It was a fantastic trip.
What part of the state is that in?
That's right on the east side of Yellowstone.
Okay. Got it. Yeah, it's just, this country's so big and so diverse, like, I don't know if you could ever see it.
There's something for everybody. It's whatever your thing is, that's a great thing. Just get out there and do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And with the retirement and everything else, as you're kind of looking back on everything you've done, is there something that you wish other people knew about you that maybe they don't know about you today, in a sense of...
That's an interesting question. Not really. I'm a pretty straightforward guy. I don't have too many secrets. I'm not sure I have any secrets. Even went back to in the military. I had a secret clearance, but I don't know why. I don't know what secrets there were to have to give to anybody. we knew how to operate a system. And what secrets in my life, there's not really any of consequence. We're lucky we have 3 daughters, 7 grandkids. Everybody's doing okay.
Yeah.
I guess our middle daughter's out near you. She's in Ashland, Oregon, and she's just come down with the COVID, and we're, of course, very worried about her. But everybody else, thank God, is doing okay.
That's great. And as far as, veterans issues and anything involving the veteran community, do you think that we could improve on certain things in Colorado specifically that you would like to see a little bit more implementation of?
It's sad to see so many veterans struggling, but that's mostly the class that I see when I volunteer there, because they don't have transportation to get into the hospital. But I think it's amazing how well they're treated in the hospital. Mm-hmm. I dare say 9 out of 10 of the people that I would drive are very, very happy with the service they get. And I would, just on my own saying, add on that the 10th, I don't think you could make happy.
Right.
I see some are pretty beat up by life, their experiences that they carry, the damage to their psyche. A lot of them just don't function well out in the society's world.
So besides the medical care, obviously, that you feel is top notch and people are getting what they need from that, has the mental health side of things, has that caught up to the medicinal side of things as far as the VA is concerned?
Well, that's hard to know. A certain number, not as many that I drive, are coming in for the classes.
Okay.
For alcohol addiction or PTSD or drug addiction. And they come in and they do their class and you take them home, and sometimes they're just absorbed in their own thoughts. You try to pull them out a little bit. They see my badge. It's written very large. I'm a veteran and so forth. And some will talk to you and some don't.
Yeah.
I like to think they're getting the care they need.
Yeah, no, I agree.
There's a lot of guys.
Yeah.
I say guys, it's rare you see a female, but
yeah, of course.
Both really.
Yeah, do you think based on the experiences that they've had, they can't get out of that rut, like they're kind of stagnant in a sense of being able to push forward?
Yeah, I've read a book that the VA put out. I think they put it out called A Courage to Heal. There's a lot you can do, but you have to really want to and understand it and be able to and get the help along the way.
Yeah. It's, obviously you can't, like you said, you have to allow them to come forth and want to get out of that situation.
You have to want it. And I think everybody wants it, but you don't want it enough, or you don't know how to want it, or you don't know how to go about it. And, the VA has an amazing amount of outreach programs to try to capture these people, but some of them just can't do it. It just irks me to no end what our government has done to get innocent young people involved in a jungle war for no known reason, and even today, no known reason.
And what have you been noticing younger folks as well, like coming from this global war on terror and things like that, going to the VA when you were volunteering?
You see them, but mostly you see older people.
Yeah.
Actually, my favorite people that I drive are the ones from World War II. They're just really neat old people, usually about 90 or so.
Yeah.
And they get them to talking, and you see all of a sudden their eyes will light up and they'll twinkle, and they'll remember when they were 17 or 18 or 19 going through Italy or France or something. And now they're end stages of their life and have all kind of medical dilemmas, but just that little bit of time that they get to reminisce and think back to the youth days, the good old days, when your body could be resilient and do anything you want.
Yeah.
And how your life kind of evolves around your medicines and your doctors. And
Were you part of the post when we had a couple of World War II veterans?
I've been around it for a couple of years.
So I just talked with the son and daughter of Sid Schaffner. He was one of the guys that liberated Dachau. in World War II, and so they were talking about that. And he, at the tail end of his life, made a trip to Israel at 93 years old. And the Friends of the IDF, that nonprofit, they sponsored him to go there and meet one of the guys that he helped liberate that became one of his friends. So it was obviously an interesting story in that sense, but I just regret not being able to have done this with those guys in the same capacity earlier.
These guys' military's career, when I listen to them, are super interesting, and I just did my time for the most part.
You make it sound like a prison sentence.
Well, in a way it is, but I never got a foreign post or looking back, I think a military career would be pretty interesting, but your first couple of years you're just a worker.
Yeah. No, I get that. And any, like, being around veterans, having volunteered, obviously that volunteering's a big aspect of your life and continuing to give back. What do you recommend to folks that are maybe a little bit younger but feel that they don't have the time or the access to volunteer in some capacity? What would you tell them?
Well, that's why I think it's so important to do it before you get committed. And I don't mean a negative word, bogged down in your life, that you've got a job and you've got a kid or a couple of kids and a wife and a mortgage and payments, and you're kind of strapped. You wake up and you do your thing, and before you know it's the end of the day, and you wake up and you do your thing again. I don't know where you carve time out to do it, but if you could do a little bit, that would be great. We surely need it in today's world with so many people struggling.
Yeah, even more so, especially after 2020 has just been such a, I think we'll study this time for decades on what happened.
I don't know. It seems like a lot of people say it's a lost year. It's certainly a year, though, you could have been reflecting and maybe getting some things organized and situated in your life that you can be poised to go forward to do better things.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a rarity to literally have a pause in your life at this capacity, where you could.
Well, it's a pause without choice. I don't see many people this past year because of the COVID thing and the risk that might bring something home to somebody that couldn't withstand it.
Yeah.
My wife and I've been together for 52 years, and there's no way I could bring something home that would really compromise her fragile health.
Yeah, well, it's 52 years. It's amazing.
Wouldn't want it any other way.
How did you how did you meet and how did you know you're like, this is the girl?
I was in the Army and stationed down at Fort Carson, and like I said, and it was interesting. I was in there a couple of months, and the Army chose to disband this weapon system from its arsenal. So in essence, I didn't have a job. Right. I was kicked back to an old unit, and pretty much you bide your time. But I met another Jewish fellow in the company, and he said, "Why don't you come up to the Jewish chapel?" And there's a couple of us Jewish guys, and this is what we do. We play tennis in the afternoon, and also we kept the kitchen in the Jewish chapel kosher. So I didn't know a whole lot about that, but we used to come up to Denver to be able to buy kosher food. And while I was up here, I met Esther. She was a student at CU. And on Friday afternoon, I had to make reveille with my company, and then I could leave for the day. And the weekend, as it were, because it was a Sabbath, and they didn't understand what the Jewish Sabbath was, so I could be gone for pretty much the weekend. Mm-hmm. So I'd come up to Denver on the guys to be buying kosher food, and met Esther, and I'd go to class with her at CU and eat in the cafeteria at CU. And I thought the food up there was great.
Up in Boulder or CU Denver?
In Boulder, yeah.
Oh, wow, okay. And that's love to be driving from Fort Carson, Colorado Springs, all the way to Boulder to go have lunch or what have you.
Well, it's an hour to Denver, and I'd spend a weekend with her.
Yeah. And then ultimately, like, as you were hanging out with her, how long did it take before you proposed?
Oh, less than a year.
Okay.
Yeah, we got engaged before I got out of the Army, and 2 months out, we got married.
And how old were you when you got married?
22,
Okay.
21, 21, 22. We got married at Temple Emmanuel
Okay.
in Denver, and
Yeah, man. It's
our kids went to preschool there and religious school and got bat mitzvah there and confirmation, the IST.
I don't know if
Now
you
it's our grandkids' turn.
I don't know if you knew, but like Temple Emmanuel used to be downtown. Did you know that?
Yes.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It did on Emerson or Grand Street somewhere, yeah.
Yeah. I didn't
When
know
we
that.
went there, it was at their present location on Grape and for
Gotcha.
Glencoe and what's it, First Avenue.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny how certain things end up shaping your life, you know, like not an indecision, a decision that was out of your hands, like forcing you to be in Colorado, led you to the love of your life.
Looking back, it's one of the best things that ever happened.
Yeah.
I moved out here, and one of the first things I did was go on to PX and buy a camera, so I could take pictures of the Garden of the Gods.
Yeah.
It was like I couldn't believe this country. I'd never seen anything like this.
Yeah, especially coming from East Coast, you know, because everything's so congested, and like once you get out of the cities,
You live in
and
a city, you don't know a whole lot about what's out here, and it was like an amazement. It was a shock. It was great.
Did you guys have the incline, like in Manitou there, where you could hike up where the old train tracks used to be, even back then?
A number of times, but back in the day, I could run trail and yeah. Used to go over to the Broadmoor. They let the GI skate there. You could rent skates for $1 or something, and it was great. The people from the Olympics were training, and it was fun. I enjoyed that a lot.
Yeah, it's Colorado Springs, I think, for whatever reason, it gets kind of a bad rap. I think it's probably one of the better places in Colorado to raise a family.
There's some great places there, and many a days after the day in the service, I'd go over to the Garden of the Gods and hike around and climb on the rocks. And
yeah, I used to love going when I was in the Army. Like we were a mountain team, so we did a lot of like mountaineering stuff, and we go to the back of Pikes Peak where the old the lifts were, and it's all still decent. So we'd put skins on and go up and then ski down and that kind of stuff. And, going to 11 Mile Canyon, things like that, and go and top rope and just climb and do things. So it was always a good time.
Yeah, I learned to cross-country ski well after those days. But yeah, there's a lot of, I don't know how many thousands of acres of ground that Fort Carson has south of the springs that we used to take our vehicles out in and drive.
Oh, yeah.
Either take your Jeep out or take a track vehicle out or armored personnel carry out and just see what it'll do.
Yeah, we had
you're
some
19 and 20, you're not smart, but you're invincible and you can do all these things.
That's for sure. I actually saw my first mountain lion on Fort Carson.
Really?
Yeah, that was freaky. Because it was at night, and we're driving a 4-wheeler, and we're coming back from a range or something. I can't remember exactly, but we're coming down this hill, and I just see, these beaming eyes in night vision. Like I didn't have the lights on. I just had, my night vision goggles on. And I just see like piercing to the side, and I'm on a 4-wheeler, and it goes pretty fast. And I definitely maxed out the speed as I was going down that hill. Because I've never, before that, honestly, before going to Africa, I've never seen a big cat like that before. So it was definitely.
It's amazing. You can spend a lifetime out hiking in the backcountry and never see a cat, but I can guarantee you they see you.
Yeah.
And if they're out there, you see their sign if you look for it. But they typically don't like people and don't want anything to do with you.
Yeah.
So it's pretty rare to see one.
Yeah, and it definitely was memorable, I can tell you that. Well, I thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, sure, Ben. This was interesting, thinking about things you haven't thought about in a long time.
Yeah, no, I hope, that we can be able to share this, and you'll be able to, send it to your grandkids and friends and family and stuff like that. They may get something out of it that they didn't know about you from before too. So think that's always an interesting one where,
Super.
little tidbits of information get some nuance to some of the stories they might have heard.
That's great. And I appreciate you doing it. I think it's a good idea.
Yeah. Well, keep in touch, and hopefully you get to see you on some of the meetings, even if it's just Zoom. It's good to connect again. And
Yeah,
all that
I attended the last one. It was really good. I'll try.
Awesome. Well, have a good rest of your day, and
You too.
yeah, talk soon.
Okay, Ben. Take care.
Take care. Bye. The show is produced and engineered by myself, Ben, out of Denver, Colorado. Be sure to subscribe to our social media or wherever you consume content, iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, etc. Big shout out to Mike Xavier. Thank you so much for letting us use your music as part of our show. Be sure to check him out as well on social media. And stay tuned for the next show.